Good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to another episode of College Blitz here for another, late lunch special like last week. I'm here with my boy Q. As always, I hope you had a Merry Christmas, Q. I did. Like I told you before, I got a nephew who's 3. I got a nephew who's 1. I got a niece who's 9 months and another niece who's 9 months. So I got a little sick. The 3-year-old's in like preschool, so they don't do much school. But he's always just like we said, little kids. They don't cover. They're always sick. They don't cover their mouth when they cough. They just sneeze everywhere. So I got a little of that. Who knows where I got it from, but. I powered through it, just to see the family. But it was nice to be back in California. How was that? How's your Christmas, Q?
It was uneventful. I worked. I was at the fire department, but it was good, man. We had a good day. Nothing too terribly, crazy or newsworthy. It was pretty laid back, and yeah, man, had a pretty easy day. And can't complain. Ate well, hung out with the fellas, and had a good day.
There you go, man. That's all it is. That's what it's all about. And I'm sure I'm living in Florida. The weather in California was a little colder, but nothing like you got in Georgia. Or we don't really get down to the anything in below the 40s, but when it hit about 50 and the wind and it's overcast, gets a little cold. That could help. Reason I got cold, but I teased it a little bit, threw out a tweet. My boy Q didn't like it or retweet it. I don't know what's up with that, but I really don't care. I'm like, whoever sees it sees it, whatever. It's not. I'd rather honestly, I'm not really a big fan of X or Twitter. I'd rather do like in face or at least here where I'm like, hey, if I'm gonna talk some shit to you, like I'm gonna do it behind at least. At least here, I'm like, you can talk shit back to me. I'm behind the screen in Twitter. I can't talk shit. So I'm not like a huge fan of Twitter, but I wanted to get it out. We had a little change, a little confusion. But I put out a little teaser. Do you, in my opinion, round 2 of the playoffs, and I'm with Dan Lanning on this, should be at the home venue. I think we got these teams who worked their ass off all year to get the top 4 seed. Indiana going undefeated, Ohio State losing by 3, losing 1 game, Georgia losing 1 game to Alabama, Texas Tech losing 1 game to Arizona State. Worked all year to get that top 4 bye, and those fan bases don't get to see their team at what's at their home venue. What's the home field advantage for any of these teams? Going to these neutral site games, what's the benefit of playing? You work all. Indiana, which has been great the last 2 years. It's not a football school. When would Indiana ever have a game like that? The amount of money that they could have brought in for that university if they had a home game. I just think, a round 2 venue like that, I think I'm with Dan Lanning. I don't agree with Dan Lanning a lot, but I agree with Dan Lanning that these games should be played at the home venue.
Yeah, the new 12-team playoff obviously has. I think there's a lot of fans behind it, and also there's some detractors to it, right? I am not one of these people who is mad at getting more teams in. I think just like I'm with you in terms of Dan Lanning, I'm kind of hit or miss with him. I think if he's your coach, I think you like him. Obviously, he's a fiery guy. I think he's a guy who brings a lot of energy to the team and to, his pregame talks and to his postgame talks and to interviews and everything like that. He's a fiery guy. Obviously took his cues from Kirby Smart for a lot of years and everything like that. So obviously, Kirby Smart's kind of the same way. But again, I don't agree with him on a whole bunch, but I definitely agree with him on this and that. Obviously, there's a benefit to being a top 4 seed and landing a bye in the first round, but then also you don't benefit in it in the way of getting a home playoff game, right? And You saw last year, and I think last year, obviously, there's some some things that obviously have changed from year to year, right? That the reseeding and everything like that, which so it's a little bit different than last year. But again, you saw what happened last year, right? Your top 4 seeds did what? They got the first round bye, and then subsequently landed in the second round, and all 4 of them lost, right? So again, there's a couple reasons, right? Then there's some context needed behind that, but at the end of the day, if you're a top 4 seed in the NFL, right? Or let's say let's go with the top 2 seed, right? The top seed, because there's 7 teams that make the playoff in each conference. If you're the number 1 seed, you not only do you get that first round bye, but then also you benefit from being at home the entire playoff, right? And so that's something that you don't get in college, and college they're doing something interesting in that it's like you're constantly changing, right? You've gone away from the previous model, from the previous bowl system model, and now you're transitioning to this kind of more NFL model, while at the same time not having those top teams benefit from getting home game, right? So you've gone to a new system while trying to keep your popular bowls names alive and recognized, right? Because you have the Orange Bowl, being played, the Sugar Bowl, the Cotton Bowl, so on and so forth, right? And so it's like you're moving, into this new era while also kind of trying to keep, some of your the previous traditions and your popular bowl games alive in name alone, right? Because now the affiliation to those bowls has changed based on the playoff system, right? Now it's not a conference affiliation like it was previously. Now it's a playoff that's determining who's in those games. So again, I definitely would be not thrilled if I was a top 4 seed, had a bye, and had to go on the road to a neutral site game to play. It's not ideal if you're one of those teams. Obviously, the teams that are not a top 4 seed, probably by the same token, really don't mind it, right? You have a Miami team that had to go on the road to one of the toughest environments in the country to play in, and they go from that, in the first round to now in the second round, being on a neutral field indoors, with a 50-50 crowd, or, I would imagine Ohio State will probably have more fans there, but I would imagine, I expect Miami fans to definitely, represent and turn out, for that game, even if it's not 50-50. But, again, I think it just depends on what, on where you land in terms of fandom and the whole deal. But I think at its core, when you consider the top 4 teams, where they finish, they're being rewarded with a first round bye. You expect to come off that bye and be at home and not have to travel, if you're Oregon, all the way to Miami, right? And if you're if you're Georgia, have to go to, not terribly far, to New Orleans, right? And so on and so forth, right? So, if you're Indiana, having to go all the way to where the Rose Bowl, right? And so, again, it's just one of the many things that I think college football still has yet to fix. Even though, again, I think most people like the 12-team format. I know you're one of them that doesn't, but I think more football, more happy, fans. I feel like, but I think it is one of the things they do have to fix moving forward, is finding a way to give these teams with a first round bye incentive. Not incentive, but rewarding them with a home game given their stature.
I mean, I get it in some circumstances about money. I mean, you look at the Rose Bowl, has 89,000 plus venue seating, so it's a money thing. But you got an Indiana team who went undefeated all year, is going to have to travel half the country to go to the Rose Bowl. And California. If you know anything about Alabama, it's going to be a heavily favored Alabama fan. I mean, I think the Indiana fans are going to show up. But if you know anything about an SEC team, especially Alabama, they travel. I'm just I just like, hey, you're the best 4 teams. I think college football should change it. I think we saw a little change from year 1 to year 2. I still think they'll probably do a little change next year with some of the group of 5, because we definitely, as a great a story it was for Tulane and JMU, did they deserve to make it after the performance we saw? Yes, JMU did put up 34 points, but that was unfortunately garbage time. Tulane, who lost 45-14, lost 45-10 to Ole Miss in the regular season. So I think in that circumstance they got to make some change. I would say I hate the 12 team. I like it in the circumstances this year. I wish they put the best 11 teams in. We didn't have the best. We had the best 10 teams for sure, but we didn't get the best 11 teams, because you're always gonna you got to give the group of 5 one slot. I hope not two. So I hope they change on that circumstance. My issue last year was like, hey, we got 12 teams. There's not 12 teams who can win the title. There might have been 4. This year it's different. I think if you put in the 12 teams, I'm telling you, Notre Dame would have had a shot the way they were playing to win the title at the end of the year. But I mean, that's what happens when the ACC had a very down year. But I did like the not giving the top 4 conference winners the automatic top 4 seed. I mean, like, hey, you play in the SEC, you play in the Big Ten, which has been one of the best, probably the best conference in college football in the recent, in the last couple of years. In Ohio State, hey, you lost to Indiana. You're still one of the best teams in the country. So I think, like we saw last year with the college football committee making little tweaks. So I expect they got to make a little tweaks this for next year. I mean, I thought, in my opinion, I was like, this is going to move slow, because if you know anything about the committee, they all have to agree. It's not a unanimous thing. They all have to agree. So, but we did see some movement where it was like, hey, it doesn't matter if you win your conference, it's the top 4 get the bye, which is good. I'm happy about that, because I think that's deserved. Did Boise State last year deserve a bye? I mean, I was a great Boise State, an unbelievable year, but if you saw their conference and their schedule, did they deserve an automatic bye? So I think we'll see some changes, and I hope we see some changes. I'd prefer, in my opinion, to have Notre Dame in there. Not saying Miami obviously deserved to get in that head-to-head win, but I think Notre Dame was one of the best, 11 teams in college football. I think it would have been a better week 1, but I am hopeful because of the quick changes we did see from year 1 to year 2, that maybe we have a little more faith in committee to make a little more tweaks here and there to make it better. Because I do think, in my opinion, the 12 team is probably the best format, where it's, if you keep on, which we'll probably get 16 teams like you've mentioned and like we've mentioned on here, but in my opinion, if we keep on, if the college football keeps on expanding it, are we just diluting the system? That is, in my opinion. Are we just giving so I do think 12, if this is the format, 12 teams is probably the perfect format in certain years. But I mean, I'm a little more hopeful that we can see some more tweaks going into next year. I'm stoked for this week, because I think we got some great games. We got one game. Was it tomorrow?
So real quick before we move on to like the list of games. So the in terms of the 12, yeah. I mean, you look at the 12, and obviously the 2 group of 5 teams getting in is a little bit of an anomaly based on how bad the ACC was. So remember, it's the 5 highest ranked conference winners get in, right? And so that was because of what it is, that was going on this year in terms of the ACC. The 2 group of 5 teams getting in, kind of an anomaly in terms of the 12 team playoff. Now, if you move to 16 out, who knows? But in terms of the 12 team playoff and the 2 group of 5 teams getting in, for anybody watching who's like, oh, you automatically get 2 G5 teams in, you don't, right? It just happened to be that they were 2, they were 2 of the highly ranked, conference winners, so they got in, right, based on the way what happened in the ACC, right? So I don't anticipate that being a thing moving forward. I think it's definitely an anomaly. But at the same time, obviously, again, nobody wants to see 2 group of 5 teams in. And I'm sorry, no disrespect to any of those schools or fan bases, but it is what it is, man. You look at those schedules, They don't play power schedules, right? They play really, really weak teams. And so again, if in the name of inclusivity and the whole deal, right? If we want to bring in the highest ranked, obviously, which is the rule now, the highest ranked group of 5 team. All right, cool. I don't have an issue with it. But the group of the Power 4 teams have to do their job, right? And the ACC didn't, but they have to do their job in order to prevent that from happening, right? That's one. Two.
I'm with. I mean, it was a freak year. I think the ACC definitely dropped the ball with their computer scheduling on how they. I mean, I get it. That's how they did it. But I'm like, and I know I saw all the stuff on X and Twitter put Miami in there. Unfortunately, they couldn't put Miami in there because that's what they had. That's what they had in place.
The tiebreaker was a tiebreaker. It was an asinine tiebreaker, but that's what they had in place. It is what it is.
Yeah, that's what they had in place. So I mean, they kind of shot themselves in the foot on that one because we could have, So you can't really complain on there. But my more thing is, I get you want to add one. You want to give the group of 5 a shot, which unfortunately they usually don't have a shot. They just don't, like you mentioned, they just don't play the same schedules as everybody else. But in a freak circumstance, a JMU who I really like, I love their story. You see all they get a UCLA coach. The coach goes to UCLA. Kurt Zanetti, what he's doing at Indiana. So they're definitely putting out talent. I mean, but are we going to put some parameters on, like, if this happens, like, you got to be – I mean, JMU's 2 best games were Louisville and Washington State. That's, and Louisville was in the middle of the ACC, which was down, and Washington State didn't win the Pac-12, with a 2-team Pac-12. So, I mean, I just think – I'm like, if I don't think this will happen next year. I think the ACC, which – I know Q and myself, even not even being an ACC guy or has a team in the ACC, don't have the most faith in whoever's running the ACC. But I think they have to take a quick look and realize that they gotta make some changes to their conference, parameters on that, because I mean, I think we could have all seen that Miami was, even though they didn't make the conference title, they were the best team in the ACC and did have the best shot. But I mean, like you said, that's what they had in place. They couldn't just make a quick change in the last minute because of that. That's what the ACC had in place. So
yeah, and then in terms of again, then you were mentioning the realistically and how many teams have a chance. Yeah. And again, I think everybody knows that, right? Year to year, you're looking at anywhere from 4 to 6 teams that realistically have a chance, right? It's difficult. It's difficult, in terms of college, football, and the way that the teams are built and everything like that. There's there's more parity now these days for sure, based on the transfer portal and everything like that. But it's hard for some of these lower seeds. It's not like the NCAA tournament, when again there's less contact, right? And because you just get dominated up front when you're a group of 5 team as opposed to a Power 4 team. There's just such a disparity in talent to that level. So really, and ultimately what decides everything, man, as we know, is the TV networks, right? If they're going to offer up the money to incentivize a larger, participation in terms of teams, right? If they go to 12 to 16 and you're going to pay these teams money, like it really doesn't matter. It's not about, protecting the brand or protecting the quality of games. It's not about that. Everything has become money. Everything's become about money. And so again, if these TV networks, step up and they pay the money to have more of these games being played, then again, it is what it is, and that's what they're going to go to. Obviously, again, now may the type of games we watch and the brand and everything like that, the quality diminish. Yeah, but at the end of the day, man, money is what matters. The TV networks are ones that dictate everything, and that's what we may go to. What I'm thinking of in terms of what these conferences look like now, and with the amount of teams that we have, I wouldn't be opposed to something like a Power 4 national champion, like a Group of 5 champion. I think you have enough teams now in the Power 4. And I haven't done the exact count, but we're somewhere in the neighborhood of like 65, 70 teams ish, right? Somewhere around there. I think I'd have to do the math on that, and don't quote me on it. But You know, when you're looking around at the size of these conferences now, right? 17 in one, 18 in the other, and the Big 12 has some like 18 or something. Like we're in that range, right? You have 60 plus, almost 70 teams, where I think, and again, not to sound elitist or anything like that, where I think you can exclude the little guys, and I think you can more than make a tournament where it's only Power Four. It's not going to be diluted by Group of Five, and you will get a true national champion, right? And then you do a Group of Five national championship, right? The FCS has their own playoffs, right? How many teams are in the FCS? I don't even know, like a ton of them, and they have their own playoff system.
24, I think.
I'm not sure. I'd honestly have to look. I thought it was more than that. I thought it was like in the 30s or 40s somewhere. You know, maybe a little bit more than that. I'm not sure. But I think now, listen, you have an FCS national champion. I think you have enough teams where you can do a Group of Five national champion, because you have how many are
24. It's 24.
Okay, 24. So I think you know, maybe 24. I don't know if they'd be happy with that number going into a playoff, but I think in terms of the Power Four, I think you have enough teams where you could crown a true national champion without having the product diluted with Group of Five, right? And so I think every classification kind of has their own national champion, right? JMU and Tulane this year could easily have played for a Group of Five national championship game, and they have been, you know, a legit champion, right? They were ranked. They were the two best teams in Group of Five. Yeah, and it would have been a good game, right? So to me, I think that's something that possibly in the future, you know, should be and could be explored. I haven't heard that from anybody or anything like that, but I think it would make sense. You know, again, not so much given what the Group of Five is, but what the Power Four is, right? And so I think you've got enough teams here. You can crown a true national champion. Nobody would bat an eye at it, right? And so, you know, again, we'll see moving forward what it is that happens. But it's definitely a change that if I was commissioner for a day, I think I would like to see that change in just every classification. You get Group of, you know, even though I know that's not an official term, I get that, but like you get your Power Four, your G5, your FCS. Everybody has their own national champion, and nobody's worried about the product, being diluted.
I don't see it happening, but I think, I mean, I know at the end of the day, they'd probably be more happy about that.
I think they would too.
Because I'm like, hey, I was the best Group of Five. I mean, don't get me wrong. Even Boise State last year ended up 9. I think they didn't have a shot.
No.
You saw them against Penn State. They didn't have a legit shot of winning it all last year. As great a year they did, losing one game to Oregon in the last seconds. There wasn't a shot there. They took away one player. No. Penn State took away one player, and you saw it went away. Tulane, I didn't even bother watching any of those games. I didn't find a need to tune in, and I was right. So I mean, and I think that would be, if you had a Group of Five, there'd be more money there for them too, because Tulane and JMU played one game. Yes, they get a good money for their conference. That's one game. If you have a nice 8-team bracket or at least a 4-team bracket, you're getting your conference gets $4 million each time. So if Tulane and JMU make it, you're making $8 million for, I think they're in the was it the AAC, and are they in the
I think they're both. I think they're both in the American.
JMU's next.
Yeah, no. Tulane's in the American, and JMU is in the Sun Belt. No,
it might be the Sun Belt. Yeah, I think it's the Sun Belt.
Yeah. But to me, I think that would make sense, man. I think that's something that, you know, you've got ESPN that backs the FCS playoff, you know, and I think that it's always you know, I think it's always something that I think, you know, you've got a good turnout for, you know, and so. You know, again, I think I don't see why TV networks couldn't make that work.
I also think, and this is my opinion, these Group of Five teams getting in, like we've seen with JMU, it's just basically a showcase for players to get poached by bigger teams. Now we saw Alonzo Treadwell, I think is the JMU quarterback.
Yeah, he's already in the portal.
The transfer, so it's basically just an audition to get more money for them,
Yeah.
and that hurts that program.
Yep.
So I mean, Alonzo Barrett or Barnett, excuse me,
Alonzo, yeah, I think it's Alonzo Barnett.
Alonzo.
Yeah. And unfortunately, man, that's the world that we live in, man. With the new system, it's the haves and the have-nots, man. And unfortunately, your JMUs and your Tulanes and everything like that are the have-nots. They can't compete. They just can't compete on the money side of things. And these kids, they have to strike while the iron is hot. It just sucks for the quote unquote like the little guy, which is the group of five. And to me, I think that's even more incentive to have them essentially separate from what the Power Four is and just kind of do your own thing. I think, I think you're better equipped. There's nothing saying that you can't still take those high paying games against Power Four teams, right? Your Power Four, your Power Four is still gonna want to schedule those group of five teams. Again, I don't think there's anything wrong with that. You can still take those games, but I think at the end of the day, come postseason, I think you keep those two classifications separate. And I think you're giving, if anything, if nothing more, you're giving that group of five. Now you're giving a lot more of those group of five teams the possibility of playing, postseason football, right? You get, there's more recognition, there's more money, there's more exposure, there's more everything. So to me, I think it's a win-win. And if I were, an AD or a commissioner of any of these AD at one of the schools or commissioner of any of the conferences, I don't see why you wouldn't get, a backing, going for that idea. And like I said, I think it can only help the group of five, to be totally honest with you.
Yeah, definitely. It's definitely a conversation to have. Do I see anything like that happening? No, but I mean, it's fun to throw out some hypotheticals here. Yeah, we got 4 great games. Hopefully, I'm being very hopeful because last year was not the case with like the first game in the Rose Bowl where we had the best team in the nation who just got absolutely boat raced. But and I will say with this 12-team playoff, I have not watched a single bowl game. Now I might watch a couple coming up. Illinois, Tennessee, SC, TCU. I'll watch the Arizona game. But besides that, I haven't watched it. It's the death of the bowl games is just dead because I have not turned on a single bowl game and like I gotta watch this game. But
yeah, I watched a couple. I watched bits and pieces of a couple. Like I can't say I watched one beginning to end. Like the Clemson Penn State game was interesting to me just based on Clemson and them, being somebody who Miami plays, next season and everything like that. They looked terrible. I mean, they went out and got smoked by Penn State with Kate Klubnik starting at quarterback and the whole deal. They had some opt-outs on the defense and everything. Yeah, I get it, but they looked really bad against Penn State. So.
It's also these bowl games now. It's like if I'm not in the 12-team playoff, I'm going to sit out. If I'm an NFL guy, which and in Clemson's case, they have a handful of guys who are going to be high picks. But I mean, we're all here to talk about the playoffs. We're round 2, and we're kicking it off tomorrow. And I know with Miami, number 10 Miami versus number 2 Ohio State, I know my man Q's going to be traveling down to support his Canes. I mean, I don't know if Miami stayed in Texas for the week and just said, "Hey, we're going to we're here in College Station. Might as well just stay down here and practice and drive down to Dallas or drive up to Dallas."
They're in Texas. They landed a couple days ago.
Okay,
so they're in Texas. Yeah, they went back. It's not like the NFL, where if you go from one side, like, cause I know the Niners have done that a bunch, right? Where they've gone from San Francisco and they play like the Giants, and then another East Coast team, they'll just stay out there because of the I don't think in college they get the same benefit. They don't just let them stay out there a whole week or no, it was longer than that. It was how long ago was it? I mean, they played on the 19th, right? So that would have been almost 2 weeks out there. So I don't think that was ever an option.
That's a little long, yeah. But
yeah, that's a long time.
I mean, we got Miami. That's going to be a 6:30.
So it'll be local time. It'll be 6:30. 6:30 local time. 7:30 Eastern.
7:30 Eastern. I mean, if you're not a big college football fan, which you definitely should be, but if you only follow the NFL, you should be watching this game because there's a lot of big time NFL talent on the field tomorrow, and there will be in my opinion, at least 3 guaranteed top 10 picks, and you could throw in 4 with with Cardinal Tate, but Downs, Bain, Arvell Reese, those guys will be.
Yeah, from the Canes, you got Ruben Bain and Francis Manoa for sure, and then obviously from Ohio State.
You know, he's moving up the draft boards too.
Yeah, and Ohio State. I mean, I don't know that Cardinal Tate will be a top 10 pick, but definitely a first round pick. You know, Caleb Downs will be a top 10 pick. Arvell Reese will be a top 10 pick.
Yeah, so there's
and then Jeremiah Smith next year,
which could be number 1 overall last year.
Yeah, could be the first pick in the draft. So
he could have been the first pick of the draft as a freshman. So you know.
Yeah.
But there's a lot of NFL talent, and definitely, I mean, will be a lot of NFL scouts in the stands for that game. With let's see what Carson Beck does, who is eligible this year, and what Julian Sain does, who could be a top QB for the 27 class. And obviously, you know, with Jeremiah Smith and what Ohio State always pumps out year in and year out with NFL talent.
Yep.
But I mean, I'm looking at it in this case, and I know you're going to have it's what are these Miami quarterbacks going to do against this Ohio State receiving corps? I mean, this is the best receiving corps in college football with Cardinal Tate and Jeremiah Smith. This is going to be the best receiving corps. You know, I guess it's really not saying it's the best receiving corps any cornerback duo is going to face. But I mean, we saw Miami's defense is great. We saw what they did, you know, to Notre Dame right off the season. We saw what they did to a Texas A&M team who ended up losing the last game of the year to Texas. You know, but I mean, you're going up against two future NFL guys in Cardinal Tate and Jeremiah Smith.
Yeah. So, you know, this game, obviously, clearly, I'm biased, right? So anybody who knows me knows that. Where I'm a little bit surprised, I'm surprised on a couple of fronts. First one being the over/under, which is 9.5.
I'm really tempted. Really tempted. I got a free bet. I got a $20 free bet, and I'm really tempted to just throw a little parlay down, and because it's free. But I'm like, every other game, I'm like, I might want to move the spread, but the 9.5 for Miami, I'm like, give me that.
Yeah, I'm a little bit surprised when you consider what I think the over under is really low. I think the over under is like 42.5 or something like that, and then Miami's a 9.5 point underdog. Little bit surprised about that, right? When the game first got announced, I assumed Ohio State would be the favorite. I didn't think it'd be 4.5, 5 points, something like that. But hey, listen, you know the people that are making those numbers and those lines obviously know a lot more about this stuff than I do. What I will say is this: you talk about, you know, in terms of Ohio State on offense, right? Going against Miami's defense. Listen, Miami just played, you know, one of the best receiving corps in the country. I think you can make the argument. I wouldn't take them above Cardinal Tate and Jeremiah Smith, but you can make the argument that they're the second best receiving corps in the country, all things considered, right? You talk about Casey Concepcion, Mario Craver. You got a couple, you know, freshman guys who are, you know, really, really good. Also, so you look at first and foremost what it is they did to that receiving corps, right? And so they essentially shut them down. They had one really long pass, Mario Craver did, but essentially shut him down. Casey Concepcion got drilled a couple times. I think he kind of lost the desire to really, you know, get hit again, you know, like he did on that, you know, punt return. But, you know, again, they shut down a really, really talented wide receiving corps, right? And so again, I'm not saying they're better than Ohio State's. I'm not. What I'm saying is they're very good, and I don't know that there's two better receiving corps in Texas A&M's. The difference tomorrow is going to be who's throwing them the ball. Right now, obviously, Julian Sain, his completion percentage is something like 78 point something percent, right? It's going to be
8.5, something like
5,
that.
yeah. So it'll be like the highest completion percentage I think in the history of college football. He's obviously got a ton of time to throw, right? And he's throwing to studs, right? I think obviously they're top two with Tate and Jeremiah Smith. Brandon Innes isn't somebody who really scares me a whole bunch. But I think that the Ohio State receivers clearly are the main event here. They're the main draw. But I think sleeping on the Miami corners in this particular situation, I think is a mistake. I think you've got talent. I think you've got ability. I think you've got depth. Even though Damari Brown isn't going to play, but Xavier Lucas is a big, strong wide receiver with track speed, who, based on time, is faster than Jeremiah Smith is, and he's a big dude. He's not necessarily as tall as Jeremiah Smith, and might not be as heavy, but he's a guy who's like 6'2", 200 pounds. So he's a guy who is going to hold his own when it comes to coverage against a big receiver. On the other side, I also think they're going to switch it up on him. I was having that conversation with a couple guys the other day, and I don't think they're going to strictly line up Xavier Lucas, on Jeremiah Smith and not switch it up on him. I think you've got some more guys in that corner room that I think can hold their own when you talk about coverage. So I don't think it's going to be this big time advantage that the Ohio State receivers have. You also look at the trenches, and where I think Miami will have the advantage is getting after the quarterback, right? And you look at them playing an O-line in Texas A&M who was clearly better than the one that Ohio State is going to field. You add to that now their right guard, I believe, is hurt and he's going to miss the game. And so, you're looking at that as a clear advantage, for Miami. And so if they can get home with 4 like they have the entire year against some good O-lines, right? You talk about A&M, you talk about Notre Dame, so on and so forth. I think you really have to start to look at this Miami defense as one that will do things to Ohio State that were done to them, maybe not at the same level, but on a similar level, and they either didn't play well or lost, right? You're look at what Indiana did to them and got in the backfield and sacked Julian Saint like 5 times. Miami's defensive line is better than Indiana's. They're bigger, they're more talented, and look at the way they disrupted Ohio State to the point where they only scored 10 points, right? So I think, again, when you're looking at it apples to apples, a lot of people are looking at this game that Miami, won against Texas A&M and like, oh my God, that was a terrible win. They don't, but meanwhile, nobody's glossing over this win or this loss that Ohio State had against Indiana, and not looking at the fact that the same things that Indiana did to disrupt and beat Ohio State, Miami can do those better, right? And then on offense, you're looking at an Indiana team that lost their best receiver in that game, Omar Cooper. He went out, and what ended up happening, you had guys step up, and there, I think it's Surratt. I think he went over 100 yards, and they were able to not necessarily go up and down the field on Ohio State, but definitely they made some plays and were able to win that game, right? And so, again, I get what Ohio State is. You're looking at them; they're based on the numbers. They're generational in terms of what they've done on defense, right? 8.5 points a game or something like that. But then also you look at who they played, right? And I, in my opinion, right, and I don't know who really wants to debate it, Miami has had better wins. Well, if you're take your top 2 wins and compare them to Ohio State's, and Miami's got better wins. And now again, Ohio State probably has a better loss, right? They have, I guess, the best loss, of the season, losing to Indiana, right? And so again, I don't know that there's this big disparity in ability and talent, based on what I'm hearing people say and what this spread is telling us that there is, right? I know Miami's going to have to earn it. I know they're going against this Ohio State defense who has first-round picks literally everywhere. You look at the D-line, they've got multiple first-round picks. They probably have the best set of linebackers in the country. They got Sonny Styles. They got Arvell Reese. Those guys, I think I heard something a little while ago where Sonny Styles has played over 600 snaps and has not missed a tackle this year, which is mind-boggling. That's insane, right? You look at the DBs. Caleb Downs obviously going to be, probably a top 10 pick at safety, which isn't a very common thing. So again, I know Miami's going to have to earn it, but I think where it starts with Miami is on that O-line, and if they can hold up against a very, very good Ohio State D-line, I get that. But if they can hold up against that D-line, if they can give Carson Beck time, I think this is a game that will obviously be close. And I think that if you give Carson Beck some time, I think he is a guy who can make the right play. All right. I know what he's done this year over 2 games. He had 2 really bad games, but he's been really, really good the second half of the season. Right. And so, again, I get it. It hasn't been the same defense he's going to play against, in Ohio State. But he's a guy who's been there, done that in terms of big games. He's had a really good second half of the season, and he's got playmakers to throw to. I know Malachi Toney is kind of the headliner, but they've got some other guys on that offense. C.J. Daniels, you got JoJo Trader, you got Elijah Lofton, you got your running backs. I think there's guys on this offense that can make plays. So we'll see how it goes. I think a lot of people are just kind of discounting Miami and just automatically, crowning Ohio State and kind of, writing them in pen into the semi. I think you do that at your own peril.
Well, first off, you brought up the spread and the over under. The spread at 9.5, Miami getting 9.5. I'm like, I'm with you. I think Ohio State should be favored, but if you're looking at the 9.5, that's a lot of points. I mean, that's the highest point spread of all the games with, Indiana, Alabama 6.5. Vegas definitely likes to play mind games with us because they got the over under at 40.5. So they're really going off a low scoring defensive game. But, being an outsider looking in, I don't care who wins this game. I just want a good football game at the end of the day. I know my man Q wants it the other way. I just want great football. I know I made a comment to you about that Texas A&M game. I was like, it's a crap game. On the paper, it was a crap game. It was a fun game on all the antics that was going on, all the missed kicks, all the block kicks was made it fun. I'm like, I don't need to see a shootout. I like to see good defense. I like good defense, but I'm like, just give me something. Now, I do think on what's Carson Beck going to do? You've seen 2 sides of Carson Beck. You saw the Carson Beck in the second half. You saw the Carson Beck against Notre Dame. He's great, but we've also seen the Carson Beck who has done 3 picks a game. But as great as Malachi Toney's been for Miami this year and their core, and how great Jeremiah Smith and Cardinal Tate are, it's going to come down to those trenches. And in my opinion, the running game with Bo Jackson and Mark Fletcher. I mean, the reason Miami won that game against Texas A&M was not because of Carson Beck. It was that defense was dominant, holding them to 3 points, and Mark Fletcher put them in positions to kick field goals. Now, do I think that's going to be happening this week? No, but I think, in my opinion, that's the 2 keys. It's going to be the trenches, who's going to dominate the trenches, and it's going to come down to the running game because we all know what Ohio State has on the outside. And yes, Miami isn't as highly touted with those 2 guys, but they have very good guys with, Malachi Toney could be the best, freshman receiver in college football. But I think it's going to come down to the running game and who's going to dominate the trenches. It's who's gonna get a gun. I got no prediction. I just think it's gonna be a great game just because the 9.5. I'm like, oh, it's the Big Ten ACC. ACC was crap. It was terrible this year. But I'm like, Miami still was the top 10 best team in college football this year. When they did play good teams, they won. I mean, I know what we saw at the end of the year with what happened to Florida, but Florida played a gauntlet of a schedule. But I think it's going to come down to the trenches and who's going to dominate the running game. Because as we all know, if you love football, the running game opens up the passing lanes. And, I mean, Bo Jackson had a great year. Mark Fletcher had a great year and had a great game against Texas A&M that really, helped propel Miami, who was struggling on offense, to win that game at Texas A&M.
Absolutely, yeah. I mean, listen, I think both lines of scrimmage are going to be, are going to be what determines the game for sure, right? I think if you're Miami, I think on defense you have to get home with 4, right? I think you have to. Julian Sane has had a ton of time to throw the ball this year. Obviously again hasn't played a defense like Miami's, so we'll see if that continues. But he's a guy who you have to get pressure on. If you let him sit back there, and if he's got he's got damn near 3 seconds to throw the ball, right, and he's throwing it to 2 studs. If the D line doesn't get home, they're going to make you pay because he's a really accurate guy. They don't ask him to do anything too terribly impressive, right? I mean, he's surrounded by the most talent in the country, right? And so if you let him sit back there, and have all the time in the world, where he's going to pick you apart, right? Because again, he's shown he's not. I don't think he's great at any one thing. He's not a great athlete. He doesn't have a cannon for an arm or anything, But he's a guy who's intelligent, is super accurate and doesn't make mistakes, right? And so if you don't get home, and you don't affect him, if you don't make him move out of the pocket, move out of his spot, then they're going to pick you apart, right? And I think that's been proven already. So again, I think it's incumbent, on the Miami D line, to get home, and then on offense, when Miami's on offense, again, you're going to have to establish line of scrimmage against a team that it's difficult to do that against, right? And so, again, the O-line is going to have to give Carson Beck time. When he's passing, they're going to have to open up those holes, to run through and everything. And you're going to have to do it against I think it's are they the number one rushing defense in the country? I think they're top 3 or something like that. So, again, I think
they're number one in yards allowed. They give up 213 and a half yards allowed. Number one in defensive points allowed, which is 8.2. I will say you brought up Indiana. Indiana defensively as a unit is better than Miami. Now, not going off of talent, but I mean, defensively, Indiana's number 4 in yards allowed, number 2 in points allowed. Miami's number 4 in points allowed, so it's really not that big of a difference. But as a whole unit, Indiana is a better unit. Now, I think Miami's got more talent on the defensive side that we're seeing, but as a unit, Indiana is higher rated. But I mean, I think on both, I think, Julian Saint's definitely, if you give him time, and like we saw with Will Howard last year with Jeremiah Smith, you give him time, you can find him. Throw the ball up, and his massive 6'5" frame.
Yeah, I think he's like 6'4" or something like that.
Yeah. I mean, if you give those two guys time, he'll pick you apart. But I think it's going to come down to Bo Jackson, Mark Fletcher, in my opinion. If you can establish the line of scrimmage and have that running game, and that's when we see, you've seen Julian Saint succeed, and they didn't succeed much against Indiana. That's when you see Carson Beck succeed from his time at Georgia to now at Miami. They had strong running games because you're opening up your passing lanes, because you're bringing more guys down in the box. In my opinion, I could be totally wrong, and my opinion really doesn't matter. But I'm here on this podcast, so I can voice my own opinion. But I think that's in both quarterbacks' cases. When we've seen them succeed, is they've dominated the line of scrimmage on the offensive side, had a good running game. You've seen, especially I guess on both sides, but on Carson Beck's side, if you're putting the ball too much in his hands, he's going to make mistakes. You don't. Yeah. You saw it at Georgia. You saw it in Miami's 2 losses. He's going to make mistakes. We'll see. This is the biggest game Julian Saint has played in his life. I mean, as big as that Indiana game was, or the Texas game right off the bat, this is the biggest stage he's ever going to play on.
Exactly.
And he's a sophomore, redshirt freshman. So this is the biggest stage. So we'll see what he does when he's got. I don't know who's the other guy on the other side. Not Ruben Bain, who's actually had a bigger game than Ruben Bain against Texas.
Talking about Akeem Ezador, the other defensive end.
Who's just, you got 2 records on each side. But we'll see what he does, if he's going to get rattled. But I think who's going to dominate the line of scrimmage, who's going to have that running game. I don't want to, if I was a Miami fan, I want to see Carson Beck throw 20, 25 times a game. I don't need the ball in his hands airing it out. I think it would be the same thing for Julian Saint.
I think obviously, you if you're Miami, I think all things, being equal and ideal, I think, you'd want to be. I know me personally, I definitely would prefer to see him being under 25 pass attempts for the game, right? And I think, when you're looking at why that would be, then that would mean they're running the ball really effectively, and that mean they're having their way on the line of scrimmage, right? And so I don't think this is a game where you want to see Carson Beck throwing the ball 30 times. I don't think that's a recipe for success, right? I think he's gone over 300 yards, I think, twice this year, right? So they've been and they're still, I think they're like 4th or 5th in time of possession, in the country. And so, again, man, they've been efficient. They've held the ball, they run the ball. Again, their running game isn't, the best in the country, none of that, but it's been really efficient. And so again, I think that's the recipe. I think they're gonna have to, now being indoors and no wind and everything like that. I think they've shown throughout the season that they can, bust out an explosive play here and there. And so, again, I think to keep them honest, I think you're going to have to challenge them. You can't just make it, 3 yards in the cloud of dust or, screen after screen after screen. I think at some point you're going to have to challenge these guys, and I think, they don't have many weak spots on their defense, but I think their corners, I don't think are corners who necessarily scare me. And I don't think they should scare, Shannon Dawson, the OC at Miami, or these receivers, or Carson Beck. I think when you have the playmakers you have in Miami, I think you're equipped to challenge these guys. I think you have to be smart about it, and I think you have to be careful. You have to take care of the ball. But I think you're equipped to challenge these guys. You can't be scared of challenging these guys. So again, I think if that's the case, and I think everything kind of playing off, the running game and the play action, I think they're in a spot where they're going to be able to do that.
Yeah, definitely. I don't see a 9.5 point difference. I definitely see a nice 3 to 4 point game on either side. I don't like predictions, and I don't have a dog in the fight. So I know where my co-host stands on this, and that's fine. You're allowed to have, if there's my college football team really is never going to be in the college football playoff. We're really getting down to it. Maybe I'm an Arizona fan. Maybe they're getting better. We're starting to get better, but there's in the next couple of years there probably won't happen. So if my team was in there, I'm going to be a little biased. I know my man Q's a little biased, but hey, at least he was giving some honest opinions. It's fine being biased when the Jets were good, which didn't have much. I'll give a biased opinion, but also shit on my team more than anybody else. If you watch on deck, I shit on the Yankees more than everybody else. I hate the team, but I don't see a 9.5. I've talked to people and say I think Ohio State's going to blow them out. I don't see a 10-point victory. On either side, I think this is going to be a very great game here. Here in Arlington, Texas. I don't see. I was surprised. I was like, looking at it, I'm like, hey, I'm not a huge betting man, but I'm like, hey, I don't have to pick a winner, and I can get 9.5 points.
Yeah.
I'm like.
Yeah, I was surprised. And I think if you're the Miami staff or you're the Miami players and everything like that, I think you can definitely use that as bulletin board. Yeah, sure. Anything again. I don't think you need any extra incentive or motivation given where you're at in this particular point in the season. I think if you do, I don't know what's wrong with you, but I think it's just one more thing, right? I think it's one more thing. That right before you go and step out on that field, and maybe throughout the week of practice and everything, you have people yelling in your ear, you're not that good. They're 10 points better than you are. Everybody thinks they're 10 points better than you are. You know what I mean? And so, again, just that constant dynamic, playing in your mind, and again, whatever feeds you, man, whatever motivates you just a little bit more to go out there and do your thing, man. Listen, I don't think there's anything wrong with that. And, again, if I was a player on that team, that definitely be something that would be playing in my mind and would motivate me even that much more to go out there and show what it is that I've got, because again, I think it's disrespectful. I think 10 points, I think 9.5 points is borderline disrespectful.
I don't think Mario Cristobal is going to have to harp on it. I don't think you need to be like, hey, they think they're going to kick the shit out of us. You're here for a reason. that's fine. Vegas makes their own odds. They make their own points. It's not NCAA football people making the spreads. It's Vegas.
Yeah.
They
I think that's more a position coach thing, right? Does that make sense?
Oh, yeah.
I think it's more like it'd be like a position coach. Like I can see Jason Taylor telling Ruben Baber, "You ain't got nothing, man. Look, hey, they think they're 10 points better than you, right? Or your DB's coaches.
They think, and Shannon Dawson or, I don't know who's coaching offense now for Ohio State. Like, look, they think there's going to be no points in this game. They got 40 points. It's going to be, let's go have a shootout. But I don't think I'm with you. I don't think you need at this point in the season that's, hey, we're going to throw it up and get your guys are going to be ready to go, should be ready to go no matter what the situation we're in. I don't think you need to be throwing it up like it's a week 2, like, hey, look at this. They think like if your guys aren't ready to go play right now, you got a problem. But I was a little surprised. I don't see that happening. I'm ready for a great game down here tomorrow in Arlington. I know my man Q's jacked up, getting those tickets because for some reason a couple of these games were pretty low, and we're gonna talk about the next one down here, down south of me, south of you too, but a couple hours south of me in Miami, which Oregon, number 4 Texas Tech, number 5 Oregon. You could get tickets like if you're in Miami, you want to watch a football game, you could get tickets for $40. It's probably a little more than a Miami Dolphins ticket, but
Bobby's gonna kick you off, man.
Bobby knows it. Bobby always goes at me too, and it's fine. But Bobby knows I'm up when it comes down to it, I'll be unbiased. But you could if you want to go watch a college football game, you could get the cheapest ticket they got is $40, and you could probably get a game day. Right before they keep on going down because they're trying to sell more. Because Oregon and Texas Tech both very far. They
both coming a long way, and that's the big thing, right? That's another thing when you talk about, again, going back to our first topic and talking about your home field. That's what you don't get when you have a home playoff game. Those tickets are gone. Those tickets have been gone, right? And on the initial market, right? They may be available on the secondary market or whatever it is, but these are tickets that just haven't been accounted for really on any level. And you're looking at them, for $40 when you're talking about a college football playoff quarterfinal game between 2 really good teams. And so again, if you get a natural home game, you have way less of that happening.
Yeah, and we saw that with Texas A&M. I know seeing it on Twitter, a lot of the Miami the Miami fans fighting for tickets. And college Kyle Field is massive, and they're still fighting to barely get tickets. Mm-hmm. So you don't have that, and Oregon's traveling all the way across the country. Texas Tech's traveling very far to get, not as far, but pretty far to get to Miami. Mm-hmm. So you definitely don't get it, but I think we've both been on the same page this year on Oregon. They just have not. They haven't proved anything to me. Yes, you won your first playoff game. You beat Penn State in a whiteout. What have you proved in Oregon? Yes, you lost the best team you played. You lost to, and it wasn't it was a 10-point victory on Indiana's side. It's definitely gonna. We'll see what the Big 12 does because Texas Tech didn't have the greatest schedule. You did lose to Arizona State, who wasn't even in, the top 3 of the Big 12. Now you did beat BYU, you did beat Utah. So we'll see what they do. Also, there is, NFL implications here too. If Dante Moore continues to have a good game, does he declare for the draft? Which is now 2026, a very weak NFL draft class. There's that on the line now. Dante Moore could be the first quarterback off the board.
That's a legit consideration right now. He's gaining more and more traction. Going up the first round and possibly being a top 2 or 3 pick. I think I think if he does declare, I don't know that he's worse than a top 3 pick. And I think, it really is up in the air when you consider, kind of, what the particular flavor is to who's ever picking at the top of the draft, right? I think, in terms of ability, I think, right now at this point, I'd have to consider Dante Moore kind of the better prospect. I think he's got the higher ceiling. I think Mendoza, has maybe just a high floor, right? I think he's a guy who, again, he's got all the intangibles, right? He's a guy who's a great leader, well spoken. He's always gonna represent the franchise in the best way possible, all that stuff. And again, not to say Dante Moore, wouldn't be that, right? But I think, Fernando Mendoza is elite when it comes to those particular traits. You also look at what, Mendoza, his big numbers have come against, the not so great teams, right? When he's played, kind of like the better teams on their schedule, he really hasn't been great, right? I mean, he won the Heisman. He was like 24th or 25th in passing yards in the, in the country and everything. So kind of an interesting pick for me, and I don't know that he's this slam dunk prospect that some people are making him out to be. They're talking about the Giants possibly trading Jackson Dart in order to have a chance at Fernando Mendoza. I mean, I don't know. That's a different topic for a different day. But in terms of Dante Moore, I mean, he's a guy who again, I think based on how weak this quarterback class is, I think he's a guy who, if he declares, I don't see a scenario where he gets out of the top 5, to be totally honest with you.
I don't see a scenario where he gets out of the top 3.
Yeah. And again, I'm just being,
because looking who's in the top 3, we got as of now, it's the Raiders at 1, Giants.
I don't think they're going to move off of Jackson Dart. I
find it hard, but
this
is what you see when you have a poor team and a new quarterback. There's a lot of change. That the GM didn't draft that guy. That's not the head coach's guy.
Exactly.
So you don't know. The Jets.
There is that for sure.
Yeah, the Jets at 3. I mean, we all see what they're putting out right now. They need a quarterback. I don't know how I feel about that being a diehard New York Jets fan. And
dude, as a Jets fan, I wouldn't be mad at Dante Moore. I don't think I'd be disappointed.
I think if Dante Moore's there, you gotta get a serviceable NFL quarterback and sit him for a year, because we have seen college quarterbacks come in to the NFL, start right away with limited playing experience. Dante Moore has one full season and played some at UCLA his freshman year. And we saw that with the number 4 pick with Anthony Richardson, who, can't stay healthy, but he had limited game action at the collegiate level. So if that's the pick of the Jets, please give me a guy who can be a veteran guy who can come in and sit him down for a year, like you've seen with Aaron Rodgers and Pat Mahomes, where they can learn.
Yeah.
But the Jets really don't do the best job of developing quarterbacks they draft. So I don't know. But, I mean, I don't know to think of this game. What is it, 2.5, I think it is right now?
I think the last I saw was 2.5, and the over-under is 51.5.
Which is good. Texas Tech's defenses are really good.
It is legit. Yeah.
And we've messed up. It's Jacob Rodriguez. I've messed that one up like every week.
Really? What have you been calling him?
I can't remember.
Yeah, I know, because I've heard people say J-Rod and all this other stuff. Yeah, it's Jacob Rodriguez.
Maybe I messed it up. Maybe not. It's I'm all over the place today. But I mean, 51. Texas Tech's got a great defense. Oregon's got a great defense. I don't know where I lean this game. I think.
I'm of all the games. This is of the 4. This is the one I'm definitely most up in the air about. Obviously, the Miami Ohio State game, I'm biased, but I'm really having a hard time. Like, obviously, my heart says Miami. Obviously, putting money on it would be, the only thing I would put money on that Miami Ohio State game is the 9.5. I would 100%. Even if Miami doesn't win that game, I would take Miami, plus 9.5 without a doubt. This one right here, I'll be honest with you, man. I'm really, really torn. I'm not sure what to make of this game because I think when you're looking at both teams, I like Oregon's skill position talent better. I like their quarterback better. You know, and I think when you're looking at Texas Tech and what it is they've done, you know, not necessarily, you know, saying that they're not good or I don't believe in them, but it's just this unknown, you know, this unknown with Texas Tech, right? I think we think we know, you know, with Texas Tech, but truly, you know, I mean, how much do we really know about this team and how really good they are? You know, again, you know, their quarterback, he's put up good numbers, right, against a, you know, not great schedule necessarily. You know, but he's good, right? He's been good. You know, when you look at, you know, their skill position guys, again, guys that aren't household names by any stretch. You know, Jacoby Williams put up 785 yards, 6 touchdowns. You know, I'm sorry, he's running back Jacoby Williams. Cameron Dickey is another guy, right? Who's run for 1,097 yards, 14 touchdowns. He's had a really good year. Caleb Douglas, their wide receiver, 845 yards, 7 touchdowns. You know, but I think they make their hay on defense. That's kind of their calling card is defense. And I think they've got more than enough defense to, you know, to make this game, you know, really interesting. I think Dante Moore, you know, this will really say a lot. I think if Dante Moore goes out and really kind of lights up Texas Tech, I think the momentum for him to enter the draft, if it's not already there, I think will definitely, you know, be present, you know, after that. So honestly, man, to me, this is a total toss-up game. I would tell you that I would go with Oregon just based on I know more about them, but not because I think, you know, wholeheartedly that they're going to win this game. I think it's a total coin flip for me.
Yeah, same here. Well, I think we both agree on the coin flip there. We move down to, in my opinion, the best venue for a bowl game or a playoff game, and I'm with Joe Klatt on that one. Well, I don't agree with all the time. It should be at the Rose Bowl every effing year. The best venue. You think of New Year's Day, I think of the Rose Bowl. The sun coming down behind the San Gabriel Mountains. 89,000 people there. I love the Rose Bowl. And
also, Keith Jackson.
Oh my! R.I.P.
Keith Jackson, R.I.P. to the best to ever do it. Keith Jackson will always be in my mind in terms of like growing up watching college football. Any game at the Rose Bowl with him, he had to be on it.
I don't know when. In 2006, I was going in, so I was going to be in high school next year. So I was like 13, almost 14. When I hear Keith Jackson's voice. And this is Texas USC, which is arguably probably the greatest college football game we've ever seen, which, you know, could be off the record books because of what happened with Reggie Bush, which got, you know, erased. Now he got his Heisman back, which is fine. When I hear Keith Jackson say the granddaddy of them all, I'm just a kid again. I'm like, it is the great. I mean, and I'm with it. It should be at the Rose Bowl every year. When that sun comes down behind the San Gabriel Mountains, it's a great venue. Going there is a nightmare. The Rose Bowl, I will tell you, it is not an easy place to get to. It is way out there. It is not easy to park. It's not easy to get out of. You're in the middle of Pasadena you're on a golf course. You're going through a neighborhood to get there, a very nice neighborhood, I might add. Getting out of there is a nightmare because if you go the wrong way, you're all the way effed up, going the wrong way, trying to get back to the freeway. I've done it before, but I love the Rose Bowl, and I will say I love the comment. Keith Jackson, the greatest of them all, that voice, the amount of games I miss him I need to hear him and I miss him. I'm not a huge sports guy. I really don't like sports announcers anymore. But Keith Jackson is one I miss 100%. But we got number one. Indiana's got to travel a long way facing number 9 Alabama. Alabama had a great game getting that win in Norman against Oklahoma. And we've all seen Alabama's definitely had an up and down year. Indiana, you've got Kurt Zanetti of what he does. I know people probably don't like Kurt Zanetti, but I know people don't like, he's from that Nick Saban coaching tree who don't like Nick Saban, but I kind of like both those guys, like the Jim Hardballs, that they're like, hey, this is who I am. I'm a dick. I'm gonna shit talk. I'm gonna go on my team, but I'm not gonna change myself for anybody. This is who I am. Like with Saban, I'm like, yeah, Saban's kind of an asshole, but that's who he is, and he doesn't change himself for anybody else. He's like, you play the way I play. I want you to play. You can get the hell out. Zanetti kind of gives me that same mind. I'm gonna ride or die with my team. I think I'm the best team. He doesn't change himself for anybody else. So I'm like, I don't care if Zanetti's kind of brash and a little, arrogant, but that's who he is. He doesn't change himself. But I mean, we've got the pedigree and the blue bloodness of Alabama against the upstart Indiana, who got, Fernando Mendoza won the Heisman, who's if like we said, I think not the best Heisman. We probably one of the worst Heismans we've ever seen this year. But for a guy who represents the Heisman brand, is a perfect guy because he will represent, college football and the Heisman to the utmost, potential. This is the guy that, he represents the brand. But, I mean, we've seen what Alabama did. Alabama was definitely up and down. Ty Simpson, we've spoke about here was, first 6 games considered the best quarterback in college football and could be, the top quarterback off the board. But we've also seen what Alabama's done. Ty Simpson fell off, and they definitely didn't have a running attack this year. I think their other receiver was Cooper.
So they have Omar Cooper. They have
Omar Cooper's good.
Chase Surratt.
Yeah, Surratt, but Cooper's good to go.
Yeah,
he's right now we got in Alabama getting 6.5 and 48 over under.
Yeah, man. It's they got that was 6.5. It's 7 now. So Alabama's getting 7. Looking at an over under 48.5. So I think it's one of those games, man. I think of all this one and I think the Georgia Ole Miss game, which we'll talk about. I think everybody's kind of assuming what it is going to happen. We have 2 kind of coin flips, depending on how you think, and then kind of 2 foregone conclusions. This is one of them. I think everybody's kind of expecting Indiana to just run over Alabama. I think Alabama limped into the playoffs. And started off really slow against Oklahoma. I think if they do that against Indiana, I think they're going to get boat raced. But again, they did it against Oklahoma. They were able to kind of bear down and win that game when it looked like Oklahoma was going to run away with it. I think very different offenses in terms of ability when you compare Oklahoma and Indiana. But again, I think this is one of those games that's even though I think Indiana wins the game, I think it's really interesting just based on where these 2 teams were, not that long ago when you consider, Indiana just kind of being a new kid on the block, and Fernando Mendoza, who people, didn't know from a hole in the wall last year, not going against, right, the one of the most historic programs, in the history of college football. So I think it's going to be really interesting. Kurt Zanetti, I can just imagine what has been coming out of his mouth to his players throughout the week, getting ready for this game. He has been talking just an obscene amount of shit, coming into this game. So, I would love to have been a fly on the wall to hear what these talks have been like. But I think overall, man, I think it's an interesting game because, again, of what everybody just assumed is going to be the case. And who knows? I think, Alabama, like to take a boxing term, I think is a live dog. I think they always got a chance. But I think oddly enough, I think of the line of scrimmage, I don't know that they're going to be able to hold up. Ty Simpson had a really good first half of the year, didn't have a good second half of the year. And I think Indiana's going to be able to disrupt Ty Simpson enough where, I think you're going to be able to force him off his spot and make some mistakes. The Alabama receivers have not been, as good as maybe they were last year when you consider Ryan Williams, who was the second best freshman wide receiver in the country, has not been, good this in his sophomore year, has been basically non-existent over the last couple of games. And so when you look at the way these teams match up, I don't like the matchup for Alabama,
No.
and I've got Indiana winning this game.
I mean, yeah, I think it's going to be. I mean, you're going to go up against the number 2 defensive team in points allowed per game with 10 points per game, number 4 defensive team in yards allowed per game. With they give up 257 yards allowed per game. So I mean, I think that defense is just way too much. I do think Indiana gets this game, but it's also, I mean, it's the big dog going against the Chihuahua. I mean, it's Alabama, who has been college football in the last 20 years. It's if you think college football, you think Alabama. Now you don't think Caleb DeBoer when you think Alabama yet. You think Nick Saban, but it's still, I mean, Alabama has been there, done that. Ty Simpson, even though he hasn't played in these big games, has been there. He's been on this roster for a long time. So I don't expect them to get rattled. But I think this Indiana defense might be too much. I mean, Ohio State's one of the better offense in college football, and they held them to 10 points.
Yep.
And I mean, Julian Sain he's 78.4% completion passing rate, which is, like you said, the best ever. Ty Simpson is not at that level. So, and Indiana is definitely one of the better defensive units in college football. So I'm with you. I think Indiana definitely pulls this game out, but I don't think. I mean, they've got a lot of guys on that Alabama team have been there. And I mean, Ty Simpson has been the backup quarterback for a long time. He's getting a full taste, but I don't think he's going to get rattled. But I don't know if Alabama's front seven is going to be Alabama's line is going to be able to handle that Indiana front seven.
Yeah, it'll be really interesting. Again, it's rare to say that Alabama will be outmatched on the line of scrimmage. But I think you just kind of have to go with what you've seen this year, right? I mean, this is what this season has been. I'm not saying that obviously it hasn't been, in previous seasons, and I'm not saying it's a sign of things to come necessarily. But I think when you take this year and you're looking at it in terms of being unbiased and the whole deal, I mean, you have to say that in Indiana on the line of scrimmage has been better than Alabama. Alabama has struggled to run the ball. Alabama has struggled to protect Ty Simpson at times, and so. And then on top of that, when you're looking at Ty Simpson, who he's throwing to, those receivers, again, specifically Ryan Williams, I don't know that they've been what they've been advertised to be
this year.
And as a group, it's a group that doesn't necessarily scare me if Ryan Williams isn't at the top of his game, right? I mean, it's not that they're bad, but I don't think it's a group that necessarily scares you, right? And then Jam Miller at running back has been hurt. The guys behind him are super highly recruited guys, but they're running behind an offensive line that hasn't been good this year. And so, again, all things considered, this isn't your typical, Alabama team. Yeah, they beat Oklahoma to open up the playoffs, which I didn't expect that. But I would be, I wouldn't be shocked necessarily. I'd definitely be kind of surprised if they beat Oklahoma. So that's why, or I'm sorry, if they beat Indiana. So to me, again, I think this is a game that Indiana wins. I got them kind of running away with it, in the second half. And, again, this will just be, another year where now in Alabama, people are going to wonder now if Kalen DeBoer is the right guy, just based on, that Alabama has been spoiled for so long. But I can already see it, man. They lose this game and the chirping, everything's going to start.
I think we can both agree. With the NIL has even the field to now we're seeing teams like Indiana. You're seeing more teams in college football have a shot. I mean, Indiana's a basketball school. I mean, to have a shot. Now, I think on the other side, you need to change some things up to make the NIL, to make the transfer portal a little less crazy. But with this form, with the way college football is now we're starting to see teams who don't have who in a regular year wouldn't have a shot. And yes, the 12 team helps. That now we're seeing Indiana, which is having a great 2-year stretch with Kurt Cinetti, running the show there. Who would have thought Indiana and football ever? But the last 2 years, they've been, a top 12 team, and this year they're the number one team in the nation. So it definitely has helped even the field out where it's not, hey, it's the SEC and most of the time the Big Ten and the other two. Now it's, hey, I mean, it's made it more a level playing field for everybody because of the transfer portal and of the NIL. Everybody has the same advantages. Now, who may have more money, and I know my man Ed Orgeron, Coach O, was saying, hey, we were paying players before they were paying players, came out and said that, which was hilarious because everybody knew it, but,
everybody knew it. Yeah.
Nobody wanted to say it, but, yeah, I just don't think they can handle this Indiana defense. I don't like that Alabama doesn't have a strong running game this year, and putting so much on Ty Simpson. Ryan Williams has disappeared from being, a guy who was considered a top 2 receiver last year behind Jeremiah Smith and had a great start of last year with some amazing catches, and he's non-existent in this offense this year. I don't know what's going on there, but I just don't think they can handle this Indiana defense.
Yeah, I think they're going to have their hands full. Alabama is for sure, and we'll see how it goes, man. But again, I think if I was putting money on it, I would take Indiana, and I would take them to cover.
Yeah. Well, going to the Sugar Bowl, the last game of this this round 2, we got number 3 Georgia versus Ole Miss. They already played this year. Georgia beat them 35? Was it 43-35?
It was. Let me see. Have a look here real quick. Cannot.
43-35, yes.
There you go. Yeah.
That was a get. I pulled that one out. I wasn't looking at that one. But, I mean, Georgia coming in strong. Gunnar Stockton definitely proven my man Q from the I Hate Football podcast wrong this year. They coming in losing one game, which probably could have won against Alabama.
They should have won that game. They should have won that game.
Yeah. The defense is looking strong. Gunnar Stockton's definitely, had a solid year. 2,600 passing yards, 23 touchdowns. I mean, you got Nate Frazier, I think it is. Yeah, Nate Frazier.
Nate Frazier is their number 1 running back, 861 yards.
I mean, a solid number 1 receiver in Zachariah Branch. He's got 744 receiving yards. On the other side, it's definitely on the other side. You go to Ole Miss and you go, hey, look, you give this little guy, which I guess technically he's little for a quarterback, but also the little guy coming from a small school, a shot, and he can compete. You can find talent at the D2 level with Trinidad Chambliss coming from Florida State, and he's had a very good year. But I mean, this is where Kirby Smart in Georgia. This is their bread and butter.
Yeah. They listen when you talk about the way this rivalry, if you want to call it that, it's definitely been more of a one-sided deal. With Georgia having won the majority of these games, they've outscored. Georgia's outscored them by 25 points, on average in the last 3 times they've met. Obviously they beat them at home. Carson Beck was still the quarterback there. Ole Miss beat them at home. And just one of those games that they got down early. Carson Beck led a hell of a comeback, but ended up falling short. But listen, to me, when you're looking at, what Ole Miss, to me, they've got a lot to play for, right? When you consider the fact that, their coach left them for their biggest rival, right? I think, when you look at, who they hate the most, I don't think Mississippi State is somebody, that they really hate necessarily. They're kind of, in terms of that rivalry, they're the big brother. But obviously, in terms of a competitive rivalry, they consider LSU as their most hated rival, and now you talk about Lane Kiffin, going there to coach, and so I think these guys definitely should have a chip on their shoulder, and I think they've got enough offense there. They kept the majority of the offensive staff, in order to coach this game and to call the play. So I think that helps them. I just think, man, this is, like you said, man, Georgia's bread and butter, man. This is when Georgia shows, why they're Georgia and why they're one of the best teams in the country. When the postseason hits, man, they just kind of play their best ball. And so, to me, I've got Georgia winning this one. What did we say? So it's 6.5, over under 56.5. Yeah, man. I mean, I can see this being a little bit closer, maybe than what people think. I think Ole Miss has enough talent to make this a close game. But ultimately, man, I've got Georgia winning this one. Let's say they don't cover. I'm feeling generous.
Yeah.
Let's say they don't cover, but I've got Georgia winning this game.
I would be tough to put a 6.5, taking that on Georgia. I could see a 6-point victory.
Yeah, I'm in that 4 to 5 range.
I could see 6 at the max. I still think, how Ole Miss has a great running attack, rushing attack there.
Yep. K'Wan Lacey, Chambliss is part of that running attack too. He's
Lacey had over 1,300 yards. So, but Kirby Smart, this is what Kirby Smart lives for. This is what they breathe for. I don't see Georgia losing this game. My prediction, and I think Georgia ends up making the final. I gotta look who would they end up playing? Would they play?
They would get the Oregon, Texas Tech, Indiana, Alabama half of the bracket.
Okay, yeah. So no, they'd get. Oh.
Well, if they made the final, they'd play the winner. Yeah. But you're saying you have them. I said that based on you have them making the final, which
I think they make it. But I mean,
but who they would play would be one of those 4 teams. It's either Indiana, Alabama, Texas Tech.
I was going in Georgia, Texas Tech. I honestly, that was my first call, and I might have changed it, but I'm not going to change it. I'm going to say Texas Tech with that defense, because that's what I initially said. So I stick with my pick. But I do think Georgia on that side. I know what the NCAA would like, a little Georgia-Miami, but we don't talk about that right now. But I don't see Kirby Smart losing this game. I think them losing their head coach. Kirby Smart's always got his defense geared up and ready to go. Nick Saban's not on the other side, even though they beat, Nick Saban a lot. I just don't see Ole Miss having the guys to get it done.
Yeah, I think. Listen, man, this is the last game that Georgia's defense didn't look, really good, right? Because Ole Miss played, the first 3 quarters they played really well, and then that fourth quarter, Georgia kind of figured things out, and then they've been really good on defense ever since. So I think it'll be really interesting to see how this one goes. Neutral field, obviously, whereas the first one was at Georgia, and so again, I think Ole Miss has more than enough to make this game really interesting. Again, I've seen predictions where a lot of people are saying, well, this is the second time they're playing, and and Georgia will have the advantage. I mean, we'll see, man. We'll see. I think, and Ole Miss's offense is legit. I think a lot of people are giving Georgia the benefit of the doubt because of the way they play defense, since that particular game against Ole Miss. So, again, we'll see which one prevails. But again, I can see this one being a Georgia win, but again, keeping it under that 6.5.
Yeah, I'm with you on that one. But any final thoughts going in when you traveling down to Dallas? When's your flight?
Ooh, leaving tomorrow morning, nice and early. Me and my daughter are flying down there. We're leaving Atlanta around 6 in the morning. Getting there nice and early. Get some breakfast. Get
I hope for your case everything goes smooth.
Yeah.
Not talking the game. Everything goes smooth because I just did those. The whole family had the flight issues and going to Texas.
Yeah, I'm hoping, man. That's why I got the flight early. I got it early just to in the event that we do get delayed. Hopefully, it's not too bad and it doesn't put us there, too late in the day to make the game. So that's why I wanted to fly out early. I didn't want to in terms of. I love flying out that early because I don't like, necessarily waking up that early and getting going and getting to the airport and everything. But it'll be hopefully beat the crowd at that time, and then also account for anything that may delay things. Still get there with enough time to do what we got to do. And
you got a good crew going down there, or just you and your daughter?
No, just me and my daughter, man. I know some people going down there, obviously some people from the podcast side of things that I've kind of texted with and everything, and see if maybe we can get together. But in terms of who's going down there, no, man, it's just me and my daughter, man.
There you go. I'm sure some of those guys on the Caneswear podcast are definitely making it out.
Yeah, I know Mando. I know Mondo. I know he's going out there because I was texting with him. So I know Mondo will be out there for sure. I know we were texting the other day, messaging on Twitter, I should say, and talking about possibly meeting up or whatever once we're out there at the stadium. But yeah, man, hopefully get out there early enough, enjoy a little tailgate, and and hopefully start off the end 25 with a great win and
25 with the bang and then going to 26.
Start 26 with a game against Georgia or whoever wins between Georgia and Ole Miss, but I'm assuming it'd be Georgia. So because that would be theater. Like the lead up to that game and the storylines would just be.
Oh, yeah, and you'd be in Atlanta. You'd be in the basic. I know it's not Athens, but that's Georgia territory. That's Bulldog territory still.
Yeah, I've already told a couple of people if that game happens, I'm going to get blocked on a lot of pages on Facebook. So we'll see we'll see how it goes. How it goes. Right. I'm going to be insufferable if that happens.
I don't know where would that game be played?
That game would be in Phoenix.
Oh.
Yeah. So we'll see.
Phoenix.
Yeah.
It's actually not in Phoenix. It's in Glendale.
Yeah, Glendale. Yeah. So. Yeah, that's where it'd be. So we'll see, man. One thing at a time, though. We'll see how it goes.
Yeah. Get that. Yeah, hopefully, it's a great game. I'm expecting a great game.
Hoping so, man. Hoping so.
That'll be awesome, dude. If I was closer to Miami, if it was in Tampa, I'd just say F it and go to Oregon, Texas Tech. Not having a dog in the fight, I'm driving. It's not that Miami to where I am, Bradenton, not that far.
Yeah, it's not far.
2 hour and 15-minute, but then you
I was gonna say a couple hours.
The traffic, it gets a bitch.
Yeah. Oh no, yeah, for sure. Listen, I trust me. I know all about that traffic down there.
Yeah, Orlando.
It's insane.
Terrible traffic.
Yeah, Orlando's got terrible traffic too. Yeah.
Trying to get to Orlando, it's like the one time I did it was during Hurricane Milton and no one was on the road and it was an hour, which is. But it's usually 2.5 just getting there.
Getting through Orlando near the parks and everything like that is just maddening. It's so annoying to get through there. It's so frustrating. So.
But for you, man, good luck. I don't got a dog in the fight and. I just want good football. I'm not going to be rooting for either team, but I just want a good football game. Good luck. I'm pumped for you. That's gonna. I need to see some pictures and need to see. Hopefully, you're not on the floor before the game. Do a couple
Nah, I'll be with my daughter, so I won't be too. I'm definitely gonna need something to take the edge off, but
Yeah,
I won't be hammered.
couple take the edge off, take the nerves off. But I mean, I need you to be locked in for that game.
Oh yeah, no, I will be, man. We'll be at the stadium early, to check it out because I've been there once. She's never been, and so yeah, man, I'm definitely excited. And then bring in the new year after that, and then fly back early the next morning, man. Be quick trip. We'll be in and out. So.
There you go, man. Well, best of luck. Safe travels on that for sure.
Appreciate
I know, know the feeling traveling around this time, so it's definitely safe travels.
Yeah, man. Appreciate it.
On that, but I've got nothing else. I'm just, the only thing is go watch some football this week.
Yeah, man.
Football. Then
Coastal Carolina and Louisiana Tech are on right now. So.
Oh yeah, I'll be watching that game. I mean, there's a couple good games tonight.
Yeah, there'll be some good games on. There'll be some
finally,
good games on.
Finally, yeah. I mean, Tennessee, Illinois. Tennessee refused to practice at Vanderbilt's facility. They're
did they really?
Yeah, they're practicing at Montgomery Bell Academy, which is in West Nashville. Actually, like 5 minutes from where I lived. It's
awesome.
It's insane, but they said
no. Love that. I love that.
Usually the SEC team practices at Vanderbilt. Tennessee was like, no, we'll go practice at this high school. Which
I love that, man. I love the pettiness. I love the pettiness of the rivalry. I think that's awesome. So
I mean, the high schools now, Montgomery Bell, like the academies down there are very good. But I mean,
yeah. I figure if they're going to host a college program, the likes of Tennessee, I mean, the facilities have to be.
Well, Bielema was like, usually Bielema came out and he's like, usually the SEC team, because it's SEC, Big Ten, the usually SEC team gets Vanderbilt. This year, Tennessee was like, hell no, we're not practicing there.
Yeah, man, I'm good with it. With it. So I have no issue with that whatsoever, man. So,
but
yeah, man, that's it, bro. That's all I got.
Yeah, I got nothing else.
Yeah, man. We want to thank everybody, man, for joining us not only today, but for all of this season and 25. We definitely appreciate the support, the likes. Everybody kind of tuning in, joining the discussion, and we'll definitely be back with you, in 26 for some more shows and talk more college football. Hopefully get some more guests on, and we'll move this thing along and hopefully get it to grow with y'all's help, man. So do us a huge favor, like the show, subscribe on the channel on FTSN, FTSN Extra, all the people putting out great content on those shows, man. Bobby Finstock and everybody on that side, man. The Rainy Day Pod, 305 Sports Now Pod. So on and so forth, man. You got some great people putting out some really cool, content out there. Guys that hopefully we'll collaborate with more as next year and all the seasons, come in and everything like that. So, want to wish everybody a happy New Year, except Ohio State fans. Everybody else, happy New Year to you guys. Appreciate the support, and we'll get with you guys really, really soon. You guys have a great night. Happy New Year. Take care. Peace.